Welcome to episode 3 of our Quarantine Storm chat. Delighted to say we have the usual with us. So Ryan, how you doing?
Good.
And the tandem dream team, Mike Clemente and Declan Ryan. Gents, great for you. Thanks for joining us. And how are you both?
It's a great way to start my week and Monday morning. Couldn't be happier to be doing this.
Yeah, it's good to have the opportunity to catch up with you guys. Good to see you all doing well.
It's great to see you guys. You're both looking very well. And one of the big questions that we had, we were wondering about what would be going on with Clem's hair, and not much has changed then, Mike.
Yeah, well, when I first started working, I got a nice professional haircut, and I was planning on getting it cut 8 weeks ago, and then everything shut down here, and in that time, it's gotten really long. So it will be cut once things open up out here again. But for the time being, it's just going to keep growing.
Where are you, in LA?
Yeah, still in LA.
That was going to be one of my questions for you, actually, Clement. And how do you pull off a long hair look? Because I tried to give mine a little cut early, and I've nicked a bit behind my ear here, and it really needs to go. Do you just go like full on Finner look, or should I keep growing it?
He's bleeding right now. You just can't see it.
I just walk into the barbershop and I just say, don't line me up, don't give me a buzz cut, but just try to make it like not too short, not too long. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But I don't get very many haircuts, so I'm not very good at going in there.
So Clem's in LA. Whereabouts are you, Dec?
I'm down here in Northampton.
How did you describe it to me earlier today?
I said it's the Netherlands of the UK.
we were looking at your Strava time, and I've been saying to Ryan, he sent it to me, said it was far too quick. And I said, well, he's below sea level. That's 5K equivalent to like you and me.
And he's rollerblading.
Yeah, everything's flat around here, so there's no hills to challenge me, unlike there is back up in the Pennines.
What are you doing down in Northampton at the moment, Dec?
Well, today's a work day, so I've been developing some new modules that I'm working on with the University of Northampton, writing a couple of research papers at the minute as well, and marking a lot. We've got all the assignment deadlines coming up, so reading 20-odd essays.
That sounds really like adult.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't prepared for this. Too much adulting for a 27-year-old.
And Clement, what are you doing in the adult world nowadays?
I work for a company. We buy and sell investment mortgages. It's not the most exciting thing, but it's a fun place to work. And they don't get too mad at me for having long hair right now, so it's all right.
No, good stuff. We've got a load of questions for the fans. We'll start digging into that shortly. But maybe if we start with yourself, Dec. I mean, how was it? We spoke about this a few times, but let's go over it again. How was it playing for your boyhood team? I mean, you were a big Storm fan back in the day, and that opportunity came along to play for the Storm. Did you think that moment had passed?
Oh, yeah. For sure, I thought that moment had passed. When I started doing my PhD, I took the year out from playing after my year with the Phoenix, and I thought, that's the only chance I've got to represent a Manchester team. And I came back to play with the Aces for what was just a bit of fun. It was something just to keep me involved with the guys. I was kind of missing that aspect of hockey a lot. And when Finner dropped me a DM on Twitter saying, you want to come back up for the Storm, I thought, well, that's
what I did. I dropped you a DM on
Twitter. Yeah, you slid right in there, you old dog. I'll probably find him for you. But yeah, I was sat in my office at Manchester Met, and Finner popped up saying, do you want to come sign for the Storm? I thought, well, not going to miss that opportunity to go have a cup of coffee in the Elite League and just make the most of it. I was coming towards the end of my PhD at the time, and as I said to Finner, I said, I'm looking for work, so I don't really know how much I can commit. And he said, well, let's sign anyway, and if it happens for a longer period of time, then that's great. And if you go off and find work, then it is what it is. But at least we got the opportunity, and I managed to stretch it into 2 years of time there, which was brilliant, unbelievable experience.
And Clement, yourself, you came to Manchester after a season over in Denmark, and then before that, a couple of seasons in the ECHL. I mean, how did Manchester come across on your radar? Because obviously you signed for Omar Pasha's side originally, and then when Finner came in, he kept you. But I'm interested to get Finner's point of view because he has the unique opportunity of watching you as an opponent coach and then as your coach.
Yeah, so I was at a wedding summer 2016, and one of my friends played for Coventry, Jordan Petrus, and he asked me where I wanted to play, and I said England. And he said, "Oh, well, I know Manchester's looking for a goalie. I'll call Omar right now." So we were drunk at a wedding, and he just called Omar and was like, "Yeah, you should take him." And then a few days.
Did Jordan get any agent fees for that?
No, no agent fee for him.
Hey, Packer, I got a good Clemmer story before I even knew Clemmer. It was when you'd signed here, and I was in Glasgow, and we were looking for a goalie, and we were looking at you you're on the list, and then I heard that you'd signed in Manchester before they announced it. So I phoned Neil Russell, and I said, "Hey, you guys signed that Clemente kid?" And I go, you know, he blew both his groins out last year. And Neil literally hung up the phoned Pash, and Pash is like, "Come on, he did not." But then even Pash was like, "You got me.
Omar did ask me that. I was like,
Did he ask you?
Yeah.
You should release him now. Get out of it, and then I'll sign him in Glasgow.
When you came into Manchester, Ryan, obviously, I mean, you'd obviously done your research on Clement, and it must have been quite an easy decision to keep him on.
Yeah, I think. Well, you went right into school, right? You went 1 year, and then the next year you did your MBA.
Yeah. The second year was the MBA year.
We had it, and Dallas. I can't remember. There's half a dozen of them that kind of signed. We're kind of coming back. Was that the year Dallas did his as well?
Yeah, Dallas did his MSc that year.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I mean, it was pretty much done and dusted fairly quick. There was quite a few guys that were kind of wanting to come back and were on the verge, and I think it was just like connecting the dots really by the time we rolled in.
On a scale of 1 to 10, Clement, how different were the two sides that you played for with the Manchester Storm, the first year and the second year?
So the first year we were really we were fairly defensive, and that was just a nature of having a coach that was a D-man on the team. And then the next year we had so much firepower.
Yeah.
And we were run and gun, but also tough. And I mean, that was just the second year. That team was just crazy.
How is that for a goalie, though? I mean, because I was looking at your stats, and the first year your save percentages and goals against is better than on paper than it was in the second year. But you mentioned it there. I mean, the two teams are very different. I mean, was that enjoyable, or were you kind of like, "Come on, guys, give me some support"?
No, winning is always more fun.
Mm.
Always. I mean, there'd be games where we'd be down 3 goals in the first 5 minutes, and we'd end up winning. So a lot of times it was just survive until those first 2 lines wake up and start terrorizing the other team. So that was really what it was. Once Moff's line got going, it was. I mean, they could score 3 goals in 4 shifts.
Yeah. And in Declan, I think that first year you got a couple of appearances, if I'm remember rightly saying.
Yeah, there weren't that many because Clement was lights out pretty much every game. So I saw some minutes in pre-season. I played a period against Nottingham in the Challenge Cup game, which was a throwaway one at that point in the qualification. And then I played the final game of the season against Coventry as well. So I didn't have too much to do that year, which was nice. I just got to have the best season ticket in the whole arena and just sit on the bench and chill and drink coffee and chew gum. But yeah, just getting in there was a pretty cool experience. And I could quickly tell when I'd had a few weeks of playing aces and then suddenly in an elite league game, the pace ramped up a bit.
Finner, how important is it to have a backup goalie who's going to be not only going to do his job, but is supportive as well, and a good guy in the room, which Deck obviously was?
I think it's good for any coach's anxiety and nerves to know that if something does happen, you're not straight panic mode. And we always knew, like Clemmer, like said, he was on such a run. We always knew that if he did need a night off, we had that ability to throw Deck in at the time, and he could go in and shut the door and give us a chance, which is all you can really ask from your goalie. So yeah, it was great. It was great to have him, and we knew we were going to lose him. Like they said, it was kind of like we had him for probably a year and a half longer than I thought I'd have him for. I thought I was going to be, when he said, "Oh, I'm going to be looking for a job," I thought, well, let's just kick the ball down the road right now. I'll just check that box. Got a good backup coming in, and then as it went on, I don't know how many times I've asked you, like, how's it going? You got any bites? You
keep sliding in those DMs.
Yeah, well, hopefully it works out for you. And I was just like, next year. But yeah, no, it was like I said, that first year here we were here it was a lot of fun, and good group to be a part of. A different group, but a good group nonetheless. They had a lot of fun, and like you said, winning kind of covers up anything, and that certainly happened that first year.
Deck, a few career highlights. I mean, you say playing for your boyhood team, also representing GB under 18s and under 20s. Those must be special occasions for you as well.
Oh yeah, they were incredible. The first GB tour we did with the 18s, we were able to stay up in Division 1, we were the first GB 18s team to do that after I think it was the likes of Bouncy's age group got them up there in the first place. So that was incredible for us. And then to go over to Garmisch in Germany for the under 20s one, again, was an incredible experience. We were a little bit out of our depth at that standard. There's guys in there who were draft picks and things, and the difference in quality really showed. But again, anytime you get to go out with GB and put in a shift for the country is an incredible opportunity.
We see how difficult it is for GB goalies to make a breakthrough in this league. I mean, Ben Bounds has done it. Rumour is that he's off over to Austria, apparently. Just how tough is it, Deck? I mean, what needs to change in that game, perhaps, to see the next Ben Bounds?
I suppose there's a lot of things going to, I see the IHA doing a lot more to develop goaltender coaches and put on specific goaltending clinics, which is only going to be a good thing. It's getting a lot more attention paid to it. And I can see just yesterday they're advertising for regional strength and conditioning positions, which fitness is going to be a huge thing down the line as well for any young goalies looking to make it into the league. That kind of knowledge of how to look after yourselves really important. But I think with the leagues now in the UK, we've gone back to having, it's kind of a new EPL. It kind of gives you that stepping stone from the E&L levels into the Elite League, which I think missed for a couple of years when the EPL folded, because that was a good league. There's quite a few good goalies, British goalies in that league, and it gives you a chance to face a lot of rubber and also log up a lot of minutes, which is probably the most vital thing when you try and develop a goalie.
Your time over in Denmark, Clemmer, I mean, how was it over there? Was from a structural point of view of bringing players up, was it much better than what it is here in the UK?
Yeah, I think in that league there was only 8 imports on a team of, it was 4-line hockey there, and all of the Danish players had come up through the Rungstad system. And that's kind of the thing that they do really well. They took the Swedish model and just copied it and brought it over there. And I think they only have like 3,000 registered hockey players in Denmark, something crazy like that. And they're a top pool team, and they develop NHL talent. And it's pretty cool because seeing how much pride those players have for playing for their home professional club is really cool. And they do, the development there is awesome.
What was your day there? Did you guys skate in the morning, or were you at night?
No, it was nighttime. So the other crazy thing is all of those players are either have a full-time job or they're in school full-time. So they can really balance multiple careers at once.
The imports complaining that they got to kill 12 hours a day before practice.
Yeah, that was the worst, because you wake up and you're like, oh man, practice isn't until 7:30 tonight because all the youth teams have to practice before us, and you're just waiting there all day.
You have to skate in the morning, like with the imports?
It was twice a week, but the only imports that had to skate were the ones that lived in Rungstad. We had a couple Swedes that came over from Malmo, so they didn't make them skate, but we had to.
Where is Copenhagen? Is it near Copenhagen, Rungstad?
Yeah, it's about 30 minutes north of Copenhagen.
I remember when I got married in Sweden, and it would be insulting to make anybody pay for a drink at the wedding, apparently. So that was great to hear. But what I did find was that there's like a floating Costco of booze. You know what I'm talking about? And
yeah,
took a ferry over. We were just outside of Copenhagen, drove alongside into Germany, and then took like a 5-minute ferry across to this floating like ship full of booze. It was like a Costco of booze, and just loaded up for pennies on the dollar, and then just drove it back into Sweden. After check stop, I'm like panicking. I'm like, if you ever did this back home, I'd be in jail.
Yeah.
On all of it, and it was just like waved through, like, have a good day. Just loaded, like the car's like dragging on the bottom, just loaded with booze.
There's a ferry that goes from Helsingør to Helsingborg.
Helsingør to Helsingborg, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, and halfway through, when it crosses into Sweden, the booze gets expensive, but the candy gets cheaper. And then when it comes back, the candy, it switches because Swedes love candy.
And the Danes have that shot that terrible, is it Gamadansk or something like that?
There's
it's awful.
Yeah, they have like a like cough drop flavored liqueur that they love too.
Yeah. Oh, it's terrible.
Trust Ryan to bring the conversation into alcohol. It's not even 4:30 yet in the afternoon. Just one last thing before we move away from Denmark there, Clement. Just what's, in your opinion, a comparison between the two leagues, the Elite League and in Denmark, the standards? Was it comparable?
Yeah, totally. The Elite League style is more North American. It's tougher. But I think the level of play, I think if you took the best teams and put them head-to-head, it'd be a good game. The year I was there, the bottom two teams were pretty weak. Mm-hmm. But the top 8 were all good teams.
I mentioned it last week, Ryan, about the DEL and DEL2, but, do you use those leagues? Do you tend to keep an eye on things over in Denmark as well?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we look at all of them really, but the Danish league's kind of a funny one because some guys can go do real well there and not do so well over here, and vice versa. Some guys can do really, really well over here and go over there and flop. It's what are the crowds like in that league?
There were not any mega arenas. I think the biggest arena was 6,000. I think like Aalborg had a big rink. And
Aalborg they're like the big powerhouse, aren't they? They're the guys with all the money. Is that right?
Yeah, they're pretty good. But the rinks aren't. I mean, they're all like Cardiff-sized rinks in terms of 3,500 or smaller. Most of them.
I played in the Continental Cup in Herning, Denmark, which was like being in The Shining. It was
Legoland.
It was in November, I think. It was dark the whole time. It was so cold. And it was like there's nothing going on in the city or in that little town. It was like one coffee shop, maybe a couple of restaurants, and that's it. Like we were there for a week and just ready to get out of there. We lived in Sheffield.
It's a different kind of cold.
It was they got the rink, and then they got a rink behind it in Herning, if it's still the same one, like a practice rink in behind it. I've never experienced cold like that. Like nothing, there's nothing in the UK that compares to that cold. it was so like our play. We couldn't even practice. Our guys were.
You don't remember Murrayfield?
Way colder. Like honestly, not off the scale. You've never experienced anything like this.
Okay, guys, if it's okay with you, I'm going to fire through some of the questions that we've had come in for both of you. A lot of them, they're goalie related, so you can both answer, no problem. Shelley Keeley, she's asking which goalies influenced you the most growing up, and your top 5. So start with Deck.
Growing up, well, Storm-wise, it's got to be Peter Angelo, who was the first goalie I ever watched play. So he was definitely up there. And then NHL guys, when I started watching that, Patrick Waugh was a big one for me. Marty Brodeur was pretty cool. And then a bit more recently is Carey Price. And I guess a bit of Marc-Andre Fleury as well. My dad's a big Pittsburgh fan, so I had to watch a lot of that when I was living at home with him. So I reckon those are probably the top ones that influenced me throughout the course of my career.
And Clement, you kept the number 40 shirt when you joined the Storm. It's a little nod of the head to Peter Angelo. Your goalies that you perhaps look at to most when you were growing up?
Kolzig. He was the long-term cap starter from the time I started watching hockey until probably the mid-2000s. And I loved Hasek, loved Brodeur and Waugh. And then more recent goalies, I like Timmy Thomas and Jonathan Quick. We're two guys I always liked watching just because of how competitive they were.
Wendy Burgess, what's the highlights of your time playing for the Storm? Go you first, Clemmer.
Definitely winning the conference. Finishing second. That was that was just an awesome run. Just that, I think we had a streak in February that got us there. That was pretty cool to be a part of.
Deck?
Yeah, I'd say probably that first season as well. Just being along for the ride on that was incredible. And just the amount of fans we were getting through the door and the noise in the arena on game nights was unbelievable.
That conference title, Ryan, did you have that? Was that one of your main objectives for that season? Because we don't have it anymore, but sometimes it kind of gets a little bit forgotten about.
Yeah, I think there were so many unknowns because I think that was the first year MK and Guildford were in.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't quite sure what they were about, and then Coventry was Glasgow and Coventry. Coventry, typically pretty strong, and Glasgow typically strong. So. Yeah, I think it was definitely a goal. And then as the year kind of went on, I think it kind of shifted to we may actually be able to win a league here. And, they were just so consistent. Even when we just found ways to win. I think the only barn we really struggled in was Guildford. Yeah. I think we had problems in Guildford for whatever reason. And but yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. And to finish second and to win a conference is pretty cool.
At what point did the team kind of realize that they had something really quite special going on that year? I mean, I've heard a story, I don't know if it's true, that there was a little bit of a slip around the Christmas period around that time, and I think there was a closed room meeting, and a few of the senior guys kind of said, this stops now.
I mean, a lot of times I'm not, if that does happen, I'm the last to hear about it. But I think we just had so much character. Like, I mean, and now I think sadly it's kind of gone from the game. Like we had the Jay Rosehills, the Byers, like we were tough, we were mean, and then we were offensive. We kind of could just kind of play any which way you wanted to play. And I think, we had so much size, and I think teams were intimidated of us, so we could tilt the ice. Even if we went down 3-0, I think they started to think, oh, here comes the goon show. And then they get a little more abrasive, and all of a sudden our offense is kicking in because guys got more room. So it was just, we just had one of those groups, and and I don't think in today's game, the way they call it, you could even play. I think even at that time we were stretching the envelope. I think we dealt with a lot of suspensions, and we were like public enemy number one wherever we rolled in. But it was a fun group. They worked incredibly hard. They cared, and Clemmer gave us a chance every night, and it was just one of those things where it all kind of came together. You don't know how or why, and probably shouldn't have on paper, but it just worked.
How is it when you're in that crease, Clemmer, and I don't know, perhaps a couple of their D-men get a bit close to you, and that gets cleared out, and there's a big big like coming together? Is it just a case of, oh, here we go again, I'm going to get out of here, skate away and let the boys deal with it? Or do you sit there and watch it?
I would just sit there and it was almost comical, just because someone would do something and then everyone would come in and they would take care of business, and then the crease was much clearer for the rest of the night. That was kind of that was one of the best things about that team, was teams couldn't bully us. We were always on the offensive bullying side, which as a goalie makes it easier, because all I had to do was stop the puck. I didn't have to worry about
it.
Guys
just take the net off and go skate in the corner to give everybody.
I was wondering when that would come up.
Yeah, it's on the list. Don't worry.
That's already off, anyways.
Games would take like 4 hours though when Clement was playing. Been there for ages.
I wasn't in good shape.
I don't know how many times I went down to Mikey Mo. I'm like, okay, we're in Coventry. It was like we're up 6-1. Like, tell Clemmer to quit talking to the refs and linesmen. It's minus 30 out here. We're freezing. Like, can we just get this game over with? What's the hold up now? And then Clemmer's in the corner talking to the linesman. Like, what the hell are you talking to the linesman about right now?
Hey, they're my friends.
What are they talking about right now?
That's why I got so many quick whistles, because I was nice to them. I was the only person that was nice to the refs.
It brings us around to what, I can't even tell you how many questions we had down on this subject. I'm going to pick Richard Evans. He wants to know, did you ever kick the goal off the pegs intentionally? Deck Ryan.
Me, never. It never happens.
Clemmer, come on, we gotta go there.
Well, yeah. Probably the worst one I ever did on purpose was, I think it was in Nottingham. I went to play a puck behind the net. It kicked out in front, and I tried to jump over the net, and just didn't clear the net and knocked it off. But that was the way I played. Was I was taught to go hard to the post, and some of the rinks didn't have strong posts. So
no. As I say, all the times we tried to defend you, that was it. It was his playing style. It wasn't intentional.
My playing style. I mean, and part of like it went along with the team that we had at the time. We were the bad boys, and we loved pissing people off. And the team would knock the net off, and our team would be screaming louder than the opposing team, calling me a cheat.
How many times the refs would come over? I'm on the bench, and they'd be like, "You tell him if he does that one more time, he's going to get a penalty." I'm like, "What do you want me to sign it over to him, or like walk over to the meeting? Like, why don't you go tell him that? Like, what are you coming to me for? Like, Clemmer, like one more." Like, I'm like, you stand right next to him every face-off. Just tell him.
Yeah.
Wasn't
where they were giving penalty shots if it came off with under 2 minutes.
Yeah.
At one point, which we made a joke of too, because that's the way that team was. We kind of handled things like that.
Those poor guys at the arena, at our arena, because we'd be like, we must have looked at 4 billion different ways to keep those nets on. Like Planet Ice, they were up for trying anything.
Yeah.
They're like anything to make it less than a 4-hour game.
Well, I was just, the fans got their money's worth. They, Moff was entertaining the fans. I was, knocking the nets off.
Wasn't there a game in Glasgow where you knocked the net off a couple of times and they were chanting cheat to the point where you were like raising your arms, carry on doing it before the face-off?
Yeah. I remember that. That was the personality of that team, where it was just like, it was us against the world. And, we just, if people were booing us, we were going to egg them on.
Goalies are in that unique position where they often get a lot of verbals from the crowd, even before anything's happened. It's an easy. Did that ever affect you? So you'd let in a couple of soft ones, perhaps, and then they start giving you the Bronx cheers. Does it even do anything?
Early on, in my career, it would really bother me.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that last year was just like, no, I fed off the booze. It was like the best thing. Like, you're in, any of those opposing arenas, and we're being, I'm knocking the net off, or Jay's bullying people, and they start booing, and it was like, all right, awesome. Like, let's go now.
That was the thing that year. Like, wherever we went, we were playing in front of huge crowds, because I think everybody was like, you have to see, like, I think we were working for every other team, because I think any like part-time fan was like, oh, wait till Manchester comes in. These guys are idiots. Like so like we were like playing in front of pretty big crowds, because I think everybody was like, because everybody loves fighting, and we were just associated with that. Like, well, they're guaranteed to be fights with these guys in. And usually if we went down by a couple, that's when like the Goon Squad kind of stepped up their game until the other guys. As long as we didn't cross the line completely, we were able to pull ourselves back.
Either of you two ever been involved in a goalie fight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's not on training. It wasn't between the two of you.
No. That year, Deck was more my. He was a full-time psychologist for me. He put that on his. That's how he got his job. He was like, "Look, I kept this guy from going crazy."
Yeah, I sat next to Clemente for a year, and there was some interesting conversations pre-practice over coffee.
Yeah.
Where was at what leagues were your goalie fights? I'm interested. I think I've seen yours, Deck. Now I remember it. I think I've seen the footage.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. So that was in the EPL when I was with. I think it was my final year with Telford. I think, or it could have been just the year before. We were playing in Sheffield when Andre Pyatt was their coach, and they were kind of going through their Philadelphia Flyers phase of just gooning up a little bit, which was working for them as well. But we were up like 5-0 after halfway through the second, and there was a line brawl down at their end, and they put out all their tough guys. And Tommy Watkins realised and put out all of our tough guys, apart from the centreman. He left Danny Davis out there, who's a pretty small guy. He's like 5'4" or something. Great guy, but he's not a fighter. So poor Danny got jumped off the face-off, and then it was just a melee. So I thought, well, probably a good opportunity than any to have one. So I ended up fighting the import goalie. I think hockeyfights.com gave it me as a slight win / draw.
You let that one goal in, so the shutout was gone.
Yeah, I was towards the end of the game. I was fuming about that. I was trying to go for a hat trick or something, get an assist, a fight, and a shutout. I don't know.
Where was yours, Clement?
My 2 in the ECHL. One was we were getting smacked by Reading on it was like Valentine's Day night or something stupid, and I wanted to get out of the game, and so I challenged the other goalie. And he was smaller. It wasn't really a good fight. But the next year, it was Super Bowl Sunday. I had a shutout. It was a 1-0 game. And with like 5 seconds left, a huge fight broke out. So I met the goalie at center ice, and he broke my nose. Yeah, I'm like going like this. It's 1-0. It's 5 seconds left. It's game over. Like, I'm thinking shutout, fight, win, and he just, bam, one punches me, breaks my nose, and so it was a little embarrassing.
That was the infuriating thing about my fight, is that I thought I was getting out of there. My night was done. It was the last game before Christmas break as well. Thought a quick one on the old Bradfield Brewery beers, and then I had to carry on finishing the game. So I was playing another half a game. I had a split lip as well, so I was just spitting blood for half the game.
Rolled you back in the net.
Yeah.
Did you ever come close to one in your time at Storm?
You got suspended a game, didn't you?
Yeah, my first year I got
with you.
I got suspended a game for a blocker punch.
Oh, that's yeah.
Yeah.
Was that right?
Wasn't it a Challenge Cup game?
It was a Challenge Cup. So it was the first year we played Belfast on Sunday, and then we were playing them at home that Wednesday in the Challenge Cup. And I got suspended for that game, and Phil Spanswick came in and shut the door and played awesome. It was crazy. Because you were on the bench that game, Deck, right?
Yeah, that's right. I backed up that one game for Spanners. Fill time, Pash was calling it, wasn't it? For the whole game. Time some fill time. And if it was like a 3-3 draw or something, he played great.
Nick Wilson's asking if either of you are not tempted to return or continue playing the game. Did either of you, have you actually officially announced your retirements?
This is what they're doing now.
Am I important enough to have to announce my retirement from hockey?
Plenty of people who aren't do, so yeah, go for it.
Put it on record now.
Yeah. Clemmer?
After that last year, I had pretty major hip surgery. So unfortunately, all the hockey I can play now is I play once a week on Wednesdays in the beer league out here. Thursdays are always a little tough for me to be able to move around. No, I would love to.
You actually are playing, eh?
What's up?
You might be the only goalie I've ever had that's retired that's actually playing.
Yeah, I love playing goalie, I like men's league. It's 2-on-1s, breakaways. It's the part of hockey I enjoyed. There's no traffic or point shots or any of that stuff. It's great. But it's all I can handle.
Well, not a lot of goalies. When they're done, they're done. Like,
yeah,
they play out or something. But they, like every goalie I've had is like, nope, I'm done.
Well, I can't skate. You guys know I can't stick handle. So like,
stay in your net.
Yeah.
Steve Noble, I think I know the answer. Well, I do know the answers. Seeing as we're talking about at the end, what was the mood like after that Fife game? I know everybody was completely gutted. That locker room was pretty quiet and miserable place, to be quite honest. But Clement, did you know after that game that was your final game? I think I know the answer because you were quite emotional after that one. You had your family there as well.
I knew it was the end, and that whole year. I knew it was the last year, and I think that's why I had so much fun on the ice. But my hip at that point was hanging on by a thread, and we had the medical staff to where I always felt okay during the season, but then when the season would end, everything would explode. It was a terrible ending to such a fun year. Even in that game, I was like, I know this could be the last game. You don't want it to be, but they scored in overtime on a weird bounce, and that was it. And hey, that's life.
Yeah, sports. I can remember, like, before I arrived to the rink, I was really, very confident because, you guys have done a tremendous job up in Kirkcaldy. And then I spoke to Ryan pre-game, and it made me nervous. I think there was a lot of banged up bodies in that locker room at that point.
Yeah, I don't think anybody really knew. I mean, if we would have gotten through, it would have been interesting to see what kind of team we were going to ice the following Saturday, because we were doing everything in our power, and the doctors and guys were shooting up, and we had so many injuries heading into that. And that's not an excuse, because Fife did come in and played a good game, and they had the perfect game. But yeah, man, we had some guys that were playing with some horrific injuries, just trying to get through. And unfortunately, we just fell one shot short. But hey, the season went so well. It's almost like, I guess this is what you got to pay. This is life. Can't all go your way. And we had such an incredible run for a team that was probably barely expected to make playoffs. To run so hard but at the end, man, we had a lot of guys that were pretty sore and pretty banged up. And I think even right through the year, I think we had 3 or 4 surgeries. Guys had surgeries the next summer. guys needed after that year. So it was disappointing, but at the same time, I don't look back and regret anything. It would have been nice, especially for guys retiring, to go out on a high. But it just wasn't meant to be. But it didn't really cloud what a great year. We felt like champions after that year.
Let's turn this one on its head. Holly Drinkwater, she's asked, what would Clemente's book club recommend as a book at the moment? Have you read anything that's anything outstanding recently? I assume there's some backstory to Clemente's book club. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I was reading a bunch of Stephen King when I was in Manchester. I haven't come across anything new that's been excellent. I did read Four Seasons, which is it's got Stand By Me and Shawshank Redemption in it. That's an old one, but that's probably the only standout book I've read recently.
And Dec, I mean, you're into writing books. I see you've just started another study into, was it exercise for medicine?
Yeah, so a lot of my books are medical books at the minute. So I managed to get a stash from the library before lockdown. So I'll read you off the titles here. Practical Aspects of ECG Recordings, personal favourite of mine.
That sounds really riveting.
Guidelines for Cardiac Rehabilitation and Secondary Prevention Programs, Physical Activity in Type 2 Diabetes. So, there's a bit of a ton of books I read.
Your lockdown's going really well.
Yeah, I'm deep into one.
Richard Evans asked, another one for you, Dec. Do you miss crew? And have you considered trying to play the game again? I mean, well, you've answered the coming back. Well, you didn't actually. Do you still play rec hockey?
No, I haven't put my skates on since that last game in the storm shelter on New Year's Day. I haven't. It's been up in my dad's loft, and he keeps telling me to take it off him because it's taking up space. But no aspirations of playing any hockey. I'm quite enjoying having some weekends and spending time with Nicole here as we get settled into kind of our new place down here, new ways of living. Do I miss crew? Crew had its quirks. I spent 7 years there doing studying and stuff, so obviously I've got friends up there, and I know a few nice spots to go and grab coffee and food. But I am preferring living in Northampton, I must say.
It looks good, some of the stuff you put on social media. David Reed, I'm really interested to get Clemens one on this after the conversation we just had. Favorite and least favorite opposing fans?
I can't really say there was a least favorite opposing fans.
Who was the wittiest?
The wittiest?
Yeah.
I mean, Fife. They were so funny. I mean, they were just so rude. But they were loud and they loved their team. Can't really say there's like a set of fans that I despised. I mean, Edinburgh didn't have a ton of support, unfortunately. But when they did have fans, it was always a good atmosphere. But I mean, the fans across the Elite League are all passionate, and that's one of the most fun parts about the league.
I quite often hear guys that when they come over from North America, I mean, what's the fans like in Denmark? Are they as passionate?
They're passionate. They definitely love their hockey. It's a different. Danes are a bit more reserved than British, so they're not as ridiculous at times, and that's the best part. Like, Brits are fun, and they like to have a good time, and it makes for a good atmosphere for the games.
Hey, Packer.
Yeah.
I actually have a question on my own here. It came in from a Dallas Earhart. And it says, if you haven't gone over it, ask Clemmer how he got onto his men's team.
So I got a LinkedIn message from a guy, and
Not a Twitter DM?
Yeah, just slid in there again.
Yeah. The real coaches go through Twitter.
Slide into my DM, and I had met him at something, so I was like, oh, maybe this is like a job offer, and it was just like, hey, can you play on our men's league team? It's $300. and I was pumped because I was like, I'm finally on a team. But yeah, I got.
There's stories like especially out east in Canada. I remember playing with like I think it was I won't say his name just in case I'm off, but out east, like the competition between like the fire and the police in their hockey teams, they were like actively recruiting goalies to play on the fire team, and they're like, he's like, well, I have no fire training, nothing. He's like, yeah, don't worry about that. We'll just worry about that for you. And the same thing with the police, like, we'll put you through everything, but we need a goalie. Like
That's strangely one of the games I want to go to is like the New York Fire Department versus the police. It's like serious good squad. Yeah.
Yeah, they like actively recruit goalies. They probably get enough players, but yeah, they're always looking for goalies, especially out east in Canada.
Deck, how much fun was it sat on the bench up in Kirkcaldy watching those fans go at the team? And obviously Ryan's, he stood there right in front of them all.
Oh, it was hilarious hearing some of the things that getting shouted over the boards. A bit intimidating at times as well, especially when your back's to him. You don't know what might come your way. Yeah, it's unbelievable. I got to play a few minutes in up there. It was last year, wasn't it, with Guinea, the third period, and it was insane environment to be in. It felt like they were on top of you.
Were you both on the team for the Eric Nielsen incident?
Yes, no. I was there.
Yeah.
I mean, that like goes back like the Manchester Fife.
I think that's where it all really started, because even to this day, it's still quite heated between the two teams.
That was.
Did you see our situation last year there with Byers?
No. What? No.
Well, he went. They beat us at the end of the year. They beat us like 2-1. It was a big game, and Bisey went to the wrong end for like the man of the match presentations, and then like they put him in like a nerd circle, and so then our whole team came down, and grew up, got into a fight, and Springer got I think there was 15 games and suspensions, and I don't even know how many thousands in fines. All because Bisey went to the wrong end. It was after the game. So
accidentally.
Yeah, you could imagine the fans after that.
Steve Williams, actually, one of the things that you were quite famous for, Deck, was your pads. You had some great sets of pads. He wants to know whatever happened to the I Love Manchester pads. And did you design them?
They were the same pads that I wore for the whole 2 years I was in Manchester. Yeah. I just got very handy with duct tape because I used to get bored at home. So yeah, I designed them originally because I had some duct tape left over from the year with the Aces, so I had some black and red hanging around. I thought, that would be kind of cool to do something on them because they were bright white and a bit boring and plain. So
you wore them for the benefit game, didn't you, after the bombing at the arena?
Yeah, that's right. So we did the charity game, and it was amazing to see how many people came out and supported and donated to the cause. And that's when I first met Finnerty as well, and a couple of the guys on the Storm squad too. So yeah, whenever you can get together and bring the community of Manchester together, I think it's always a special experience to be part of. Pads, still got them. They were the same pads I've used throughout the 2 years, and I just redesigned them every now and again when I felt like doing it.
The best ones was that Winter Classic one.
Yeah.
That was by far the best one.
Yeah, I had to go out with a bang and keep the pads in one piece as well, hence why I had so much tape on it. But I think I probably spent about 20 quid on duct tape that week.
Jenny Sports.
Deck just messaged me when I slid into his DMs to recruit him.
I might tweet it out later if there's a few requests for it.
2017, eh? July 25th, 2017.
You mentioned those pads for the benefit game, and that was the first time you met Ryan, because that was about the time that Ryan was spotted quite often in Altrincham having coffee, I think.
I think he'd been announced as coach by that stage, hadn't you, Ryan?
Yeah, I think just before.
Yeah.
Just before. I think it all kind of happened at once, really. And then the benefit game was really the first time we'd ever kind of gone to the rink. That was a pretty cool event, though.
It was really good, yeah. It was spine-tingling at times.
That was like, way past capacity in that building. It was like, I don't think to this day I've ever seen it that full. I think they just let it all go because it was for charity.
Yeah, possibly. Just a final bit on the pads. Jenny Sport on Twitter asks who came up with the stripy pads, where you sort of explained that you did it yourself with plenty of duct tape.
Yeah, I used to just message the guys on social media because they had all the shirt designs and stuff. I said, let me know what it's going to look like and I'll make something what looks hook and match up with it. And I was like, because I think we might have done a game just the day before. I was like literally ripping the tape off my kit on the bus and started making these new ones in time for the game on New Year's.
Ian Lindley, one for you here, Clement. Do you have a favourite save? He remembers a save down in Nottingham in 2017. I watched it. It was 1-1. They had a bit of a breakaway and you went post to post and pulled off an outstanding save. Do you remember that one?
Yeah. That was, I think it was a makeup game that was played like the last week of the regular season. And then Trevor Johnson took over like the last 10 minutes and scored the game-winning goal. That one's pretty memorable. Just because it came down to the wire that year for us to make the playoffs, and I think that game put us over. I know like the last game of the year got canceled halfway through because the Zamboni screwed up the guys.
We're okay. We'll call that one quits, shall we, boys?
Yeah, we did like a shootout in one end. But yeah, that one probably one of the most memorable saves, just because of the timing of the year and what that win ended up meaning for us to make playoffs.
There were some big characters in that team. You mentioned there, like we spoke about Eric Nielsen and Trevor Johnson. Trevor Johnson, I actually completely randomly bumped into him in Torino airport. I was coming back from skiing and he was sat there and my missus was like, is that Trevor Johnson? Like, yeah. So I walked over to him and said hello. And believe it or not, he'd gone over to Italy to pick up a suit to fly all the way back to LA for his buddy Bieber.
Hey, that guy was probably one of the best networkers I've ever seen in terms of maximizing the relationships you end up making through hockey. He was always really good at it. And he actually lived with him that year and learned quite a bit from him about how to think about life after hockey, because he was always he was 4 or 5 steps ahead in terms of trying to figure things out.
How was that whole Bieber thing as well? Because I mean, that's obviously something you can
crazy.
You can reel that story off for the next 40 years.
It's I'll tell it to people and they don't believe me. And just because it was so ridiculous how we just kept hanging out. We hung out with him a couple times. He was a good dude. We had fun with him. That's like the one. That's probably the best non-hockey story I have from my hockey career.
And have you stopped sliding into his DMs yet?
Every day. Different times throughout the day, just because maybe he'll answer, but no, every day.
Not since the lockdowns happened.
What's that?
I said not since the lockdowns happened. We can't hang out, so.
No.
Yeah. But he's hiding behind the lockdown to avoid me.
And the restraining order.
How much do you guys have out there?
What'd you say?
Where are you guys in the whole lockdown phase in California now?
We locked down early. So from talking with my girlfriend who works at one of the hospitals, she thinks that May 15th something will be lifted. But it's been almost 2 months. It's a long time to be in your apartment.
You drinking any bleach or?
Yeah, I'm on a steady diet of bleach in the morning and then Guinness in the evening. So just to balance it out.
It's nice to get your medical advice from the. Oh man.
Let's not get too political, eh?
It's my favorite time of the day, man, is when he takes that podium.
Yeah. Did you see the footage of like the medical expert sat down beside him and she was just like wanted the whole room just to swallow up and eat it? She was just like listening to it and she just couldn't believe it.
It's the best. Oh God.
Nat Hammond, last question for you guys. I know Clement's got a meeting to go to very, very shortly. What's your favourite and least favourite thing about your time? Well, no, your least favourite and least favourite thing about Manchester.
Ooh.
Go on, Deck.
My least favorite, most favorite thing about Manchester, I pretty much grew up there, so it's the hometown for us. So it's something for everyone, I think, in Manchester. It doesn't matter what your interests are. We had a team that had quite a diverse range of interests throughout the couple of years I was there, and they all, everyone loved it. I wouldn't really say as much bad about it, to be honest. Probably as many bad things as every other city's got facing it in terms of challenges and things. That's a very politically correct answer.
Pub scene. Love the cool places to drink beer and eat, and there's good food too. One thing I would change, the weather. Yeah, would love the weather to be better, but it wasn't too bad. I loved it. I ate and drank a lot. It's always a good place to eat.
You got any plans to perhaps come back over again sometime, Clement?
Yeah, hopefully. I went over to see my college roommate in Belfast for a couple days, and then we were going to come to Manchester, but Dallas decided to make the GB team.
I can remember seeing the pictures of you and Moff getting in on those celebrations.
Oh yeah. That was fun. Traveling, everyone should do a 2-week trip with Luke Moffat because he's so good at. You do 48 hours in a city and you see everything you need to see. You don't sleep at all. It's exhausting. You sleep on the plane. You barely make your flights, but we knocked off Budapest, Istanbul, Central, like all of these places. And he had a list and he just this is what we're doing now, then here, then here, then here. God, that was an awesome, that was a fun. Yeah. Seeing those guys win, that was pretty sweet.
What was the flower things all about? Do you remember them? You had like Hawaiian flowers or something on.
I don't know how we got those. I don't know. It was something weird, but I got to jump off. It's 9, so.
No worries, Clem. Appreciate you joining us. It's been great to see you again, and I hope you keep well.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was fun. Definitely have time to do it another time, maybe for 3 or 4 hours, like Finner told me.
Thanks, Clem.
See you guys.
See you, Clem.
See you, Jack.
Cheers.
I thought he'd never leave. All right, man. Well, hey, that's good. Packer, you good?
Yeah, all good. Dak, really appreciate you taking the time to join us, and I hope everything's working out for you down in Northampton, and no doubt we'll see you up at the shelter for a game soon.
Yeah, hopefully I can get up there for a couple when it all restarts.
If I'm allowed out, we'll slide into your DMs and let you know when we're heading your way this summer.
Yeah, sounds good, man. Plenty of spots around here. to go and see things and everything like that. So for sure, let me know.
I will, buddy. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.